So I told you that Lewis structures were very important because they will give us an idea on molecular structure, especially three-dimensional structure. It will help us determine polarity of a molecule, which is very important. This video is going to cover a topic that's up to you whether it's going to be easy or difficult. Some people, you're going to have tables telling you if you have so many pairs of electrons, blah, blah, blah. Some people memorize all of the tables. You can do that. Okay? I don't like memorizing. I don't trust myself when I'm coming to an exam memorizing. So I'm going to show you what I think is an easier way, but you can do it either way you want. Okay? You figure out what works the best for you and stick with it. I think that's the most important thing. Figure out which method you're going to use and always do it the same way. The molecular structure is actually the three-dimensional structure of the molecule, and it's very important when you describe bonds to be able to know the length, the angles, how they're arranged in the space, and all of that. Here you have a molecule. Okay, that's formaldehyde. It's showing you what the bond angle is, the angle between three atoms or two bonds in there. We're not going to talk much about the bond length for now, but the angles, yes, that's going to be very important. The model that we use is called VESPER, valence shell electron pair repulsion theory, saying that the electron pairs in the valence shell in the outermost shell will adopt such an arrangement that minimizes the repulsions between them. Electrons are going to repel each other, so they're going to locate themselves as far apart from each other as they can, to maximize the distance, so that minimizes repulsions. This example, those electrons, the lone pair electrons over the fluorines, they're in a straight line because that the angle is 180. That's as big a separation as you can put. If you put an angle like this may be, I don't know, maybe it's 103 degrees. I'm making up something. So that's less than 180. The repulsions are going to be bigger. What I want you to understand is, because people have difficulty explaining this, the electron pairs are going to try to separate themselves. They're going to try to minimize repulsion. That's what causes them to locate themselves as far apart as possible. And once the atoms are located in a certain position, that's what determines the geometry of the molecule. Okay? In this particular case, this is a linear molecule because that's what minimizes the repulsions. But the order is electrons repel each other, they place themselves as far apart from each other as they can. That determines the geometry of the molecule. We are going to be talking about regions of electron density, and some books will call them different things, but that includes lone pairs and bonds. And that determines a type of geometry, the electron geometry. We're going to be talking about molecular geometry. But you can have two regions. And when you have two regions like that, the geometry is linear, because that's when they're as far apart as they can. And notice the angle is 180 degrees, because it's a straight line. If you have three regions, that's called trigonal planar. When you have 3 points in a plane, 3 points, they always form a plane, right? So that's going to be trigonal planar, and because the whole circle is 360 degrees, a third is going to be 120. I'm telling you this because that way you don't have to memorize. The more you understand, the less you have to memorize. When you have 4 regions, we have tetrahedral, and you cannot see it in here, but actually this is coming outside of the screen. This one will be going behind the screen. This one and this one, they are in the plane of the screen. And the angle is, I usually call just 109 degrees for simplicity. 5 regions, we call that trigonal bipyramidal, because supposedly it looks like two. You have a trigonal pyramid like this, and then there's a one below. So that's where it gets the name. This is not indicated in here, but let me mention these atoms that are in a straight line, they're called axial positions because they're from the axis that the molecule could rotate. The other 3 are located in a plane perpendicular to that, so they're like the equator, and they're called equatorial. This is important when we move to molecular geometry. Okay? But since this plane is perpendicular, the angle between an axial and equatorial is always going to be 90 degrees. Since in the equatorial plane there is 3, the angle is always going to be 120 degrees. Again, the least you memorize, the easier. If you have 6 regions, it's called octahedral. And I know people think octahedral, that means 8. But we don't have 8 atoms. No. The geometrical figure that you form is an octahedron, and that's where the name comes from. One important thing, you don't differentiate between axial and equatorial because every angle is always going to be 90 degrees. You can turn this in any direction you want to, and it's exactly the same molecule. Okay? So, yes, you have to memorize the names, but if you can draw them on a piece of paper, you don't memorize the angles. Okay? So, the geometry that includes all of the electron pairs, the bonding and non-bonding, we call them electron geometry. Okay? But sometimes we only consider the atoms. We don't look at the non-bonding electrons. It's like the electrons are so small that they're really not all that significant. So if we look only at the atoms, we call it the molecular structure. Sometimes the electron geometry and molecular geometry, let me just call it geometry because that's what I'm going to be referring to most of the time. Sometimes the two geometries are the same, but sometimes they're not. Okay? Whenever you have lone pairs in the central atom, the electron geometry is going to be different from the molecular geometry. And that's where you're going to have to choose between memorizing all the possibilities or use a piece of scratch paper and pencil and figure it out. Okay? So, yes, you have this table. Now, when you have a linear, there's no problem in that. When you have a trigonal planar, okay, but one instead of an atom, you have a lone pair in there. Okay, your electron geometry is trigonal planar. But the molecular geometry, we ignore the electrons, the molecular geometry is a bent molecule. Okay, let's look at the tetrahedron. One is going to be in the plane. Let me wait a moment because it makes my life explain much easier. Come on. Supposedly this, well, never mind. We are going to have the lone pair in there, then coming out to the front, and she's represented with the weights, you have one, and going down to the back, you have another one. So if you don't look at this, I don't know why it's not allowing me to erase. Well, never mind. If you ignore that, what do you have in there? You actually have a little pyramid, where you have the central atom, one atom in here, one in the front, one in the back. It's a very flat pyramid. And the base is a triangle. So before we did anything, the electron geometry was going to be tetrahedral, we said. But the molecular geometry is a pyramid that the base is a triangle. So that's called trigonal pyramidal. And all that is in your table in here. Well, what if you have two pairs of electrons? Well, if you have two pairs of electrons, it's going to look like this. Maybe I'm going to put the pairs of electrons in here so you can see better. This time the molecular geometry is a bent molecule, just like we have seen before. What if we have trigonal bipyramidal? Okay, first thing with the trigonal bipyramidal is where do you put the lone pair? And we're always going to put in the equatorial position. Why? Because the equatorial position if you remember, there's 120 degrees. There's more room in there. Okay, so the first lone pairs are going to go in the equatorial position always because their angle is only 90 degrees. So what if we have one lone pair? So you still have this one, and we have a lone pair in here. If you flip this 90 degrees, it's going to look like this. It's a seesaw. You see? You could be moving this up or down. So that's a seesaw. The molecular geometry is seesaw. What if you have two? Let's say we are going to put them in here. You can tell if you flip it 90 degrees, you have a T. So this is a T shape. And of course, if we have three, you have a straight, also linear. Now, one thing that I haven't mentioned and is very important is that whenever you have a lone pair, it pushes their arms. So this angle here is not going to be 120, it's always going to be less. Okay? And you can see in the table where it says less than. Boy, I don't know if I'm going to have time for the octahedral room. Let me try octahedral. Okay, so we have four, and now we're going to have a lone pair in here. What do we have in here? If you look at these ones, it's a pyramid, but the base is a square. So that's called a square pyramid. The only other case we're going to see is if you have two lone pairs, always put the second lone pair in the opposite position from the first one. So in this particular case, you're going to have four atoms, one lone pair on top, one on the bottom. That's a plane. So that's a square planar. Okay, so you have in here drawings, you have the names, you have the angles, but once again, there's nothing like a piece of paper and pen and just draw the molecular geometry and either erase or scratch the lone pairs and you can see it. And remember, if you memorize the angles before, whenever you have lone pairs, the angle is going to be less than what it should have been. And if you remember that, you'll be fine. Very little memory. You don't have to know, like you have in there, they show you the actual angles. No, if you just say less than, that's good enough. Okay? So here you have an example, methane. This is a perfect tetrahedral. Notice that one, you have two bonds in the plane of the screen. One, the wedge is indicating that's coming out of the screen, and the dash line indicates that goes below the screen. Okay? That's just the standard abbreviation. Be careful when you draw any tetrahedral. I don't know why students like to do the star like that. They start good, and then all of a sudden they put this one upwards. No, I always can't all of the weird things. You have to have one in the plane upwards, one in the plane downwards, one in front of the plane downwards, one behind the plane downwards. Okay? Because they all have to have the same angle. It's not difficult at all, but for some reason, students don't take the time to write carefully, and sometimes you just come up with some really weird stuff. Here you have the ammonia molecule. You have the nitrogen in there, and of course we have hydrogens in here. Let me just. So with the lone pair, what do we say? We ignore it for the molecular geometry. The electron geometry was tetrahedral. Why? NH3, you have three hydrogens and a lone pair, so that's tetrahedral. But when we ignore that, once again we get the little pyramid. It's very flat. I agree. But the nitrogen is at a higher level than the hydrogens. It's really a flat pyramid, but a pyramid. And the base is a triangle, so trigonal pyramidal. If the angle was 109 to simplify for the tetrahedral, you don't need to memorize dates. For the ammonia, all I would like you to tell me is that it's less than 109. Why? Because it was a lone pair, so the angle becomes smaller. That's easy to remember. Predict electron and molecular geometry. Okay, for the electron geometry, how many regions of electron density you have? You have 1, 2 around the central atom, right? So you have 2 regions, so there's only one possibility, linear. For the molecular geometry, whenever there is no lone pairs in the central atom, molecular geometry is the same as the electron geometry, so it's going to be linear. No problem. So just count. Now remember that it doesn't matter whether it's a lone pair or a single bond or a double bond. They all count as one area of electron density. Okay? In this particular case, we have 3 areas around the central atom. 1, 2, 3. So electron geometry, when you have 3, what do you call it? Trigonal planar. Molecular geometry, there is no lone pairs in the central atom, so it's going to be the same, trigonal planar. One thing that I like to warn you is when they're asking you electron and molecular geometry, please, even if they're the same, write it down. I have students who look at this and they just say trigonal planar. And my answer to that is which one, the electron or the molecular? If you don't tell me which one it is, I'm not going to try to guess. It's wrong. They're asking you 2 questions, electron geometry, molecular geometry. I want 2 answers, electron, molecular. I'm not going to guess what you're trying to say. This is science, and you have to indicate exactly what you want. Now, if you want to put electron geometry, it's the same as molecular geometry, it's trigonal planar. Okay, I'll accept it because you're answering all of the questions. But don't just answer trigonal planar without explaining. Okay? That's me crazy. Okay? How many, begin electron geometry. How many electron groups or electron density groups? 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's tetrahedral. Molecular geometry, there is no lone pairs in nitrogen, so it's going to be the same, tetrahedral. Again, 2 questions, 2 answers. Now it starts getting fun. Word. We begin with electron geometry. How many electron groups? You have 1, the bond, 2, 3, a pair counts as 1, 4. So if I have 4 electron groups, that's going to be tetrahedral. But we have 2 pairs of abundant electrons in there. So once again, and I wish my pen would work, but you have hydrogen, oxygen, hydrogen. If my pen would work and erase like snow, we'll just scratch it, because that will work. What do you have? A bent. So the molecular geometry is bent. The reason this time they're different is the lone pairs on the central atom. Okay? Electron geometry. How many electron groups do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 was trigonal bipyramidal. And please don't answer trigonal because there is trigonal planar, trigonal pyramidal, trigonal bipyramidal. Use the full name. Molecular geometry is going to be different because there's a lone pair. So once again, remember you had this little drawing What happens when I eliminate this? I have a seesaw. Remember? There's a seesaw. So yes, you can memorize everything, or you can draw on a piece of scratch paper and recognize it. That's why I wouldn't memorize it. I'd rather figure it out myself. I feel more confident about my reasoning than I do about my memory. Okay, electron and molecular geometry. For the electron geometry, how many electron groups do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Remember, every bond. Okay, so that's going to be octahedral. Molecular geometry. Let's just once again make my little drawing. But on top you have electrons, so we ignore them. What do you have in here? You have a plane that's a square planar. If you just, I mean, think about it. By now you know that I cannot draw worth anything. Okay, even my handwriting is awful. I can answer every single molecular geometry question just by making a little drawing. So can you. And once again, no memory, not depending on how good your memory is. Wasn't there not to laugh? Now, what happens when you have more than one central atom? You have a very big molecule and all of that. Well, the molecular structure has to describe the shape of the molecule, and it's very, very difficult. Sometimes it takes a computer to come up with the actual geometry of the whole molecule. But you can determine the molecule of the geometry of every central atom. Okay? The local structures, every central atom. So you don't have an overall answer. You look at how many central atoms and that you will have several answers. Let me give you an example. Okay? How many central atoms do we have? We have nitrogen, carbon, and oxygen. The other ones are outside. The first nitrogen, okay, it has 4 bonds, so 4 groups. It's going to be tetrahedral, but there's a lone pair, so that's going to be what? Trigonal pyramidal. Okay, this carbon was tetrahedral. There's no lone pairs, so this carbon is going to be tetrahedral. This carbon had 3. Remember, double bond counts as 1. So 1, 2, 3. So that in one plane, the trigonal planar. That's why you have to put the full name, because you have 2 trigonals in there. And then this oxygen, it was tetrahedral because it had 1, 2, 3, 4. But there's 2 lone pairs, so that's bent. There's not one answer. There is 1, 2, 3, 4 answers because there's 4 interior atoms. Okay? Remember, we talk about polar bonds, and there's no need to. This is just kind of a reminder. When you have an atom that pulls on the share electron stronger, you get partial charges, and that causes a dipole moment. That's just a physical way of explaining, can be represented by a vector. Some people find it easy to understand that. I think I have an easier way to do it. But the idea is that when you have a polar bond, there's going to be distribution of the molecules. If you don't have a polar bond, you don't need to worry. Okay? So molecules can be polar or non-polar, just like bonds, depending where the charges are distributed evenly or they're polarized in one direction in there. So if the bond moments, the polar moments cancel out, the molecule is going to be non-polar. Look at carbon dioxide. It's a linear molecule. The oxygen is pulling on both directions, but they're in a straight line. They're exactly the same size because they're identical atoms, so they cancel. You have someone pulling to the right, someone pulling to the left with the same strength, the overall dipole moment is zero. That's non-polar. But in the case of water, oxygen is pulling in the direction of, and these two polar vectors are not going to cancel each other, they're going to add up. So you have a dipole moment and your molecule is polar. Okay? So once again, I have a little, very simple Word document where it asks you questions and you just answer yes, no. So if you answer one thing, then it asks you some other question. You answer 4 or 5 questions and it tells you the molecule is polar or non-polar. Okay? Very easy. All of these things that I made myself that are not in textbooks, I will be glad to share them with you, provided that you sign up for tutoring through Wyzant. Okay? So if you want to work with me one-on-one, if you want all of my step-by-step guides how to do things, if you want the worksheets, once again, practice makes perfect. Find in the video description the link to my Wyzant tutoring profile, make an appointment, and we'll work together.